We don't need a father, 11-year-old Owen Parker said before Wade Mercer could even invite them inside. The boy stood at the bottom of the ranch house steps with his shoulders stiff and his fists tight at his sides. His mother, Hannah Parker, stood behind him holding 6-year-old Lucy's hand, while little 4-year-old Ben hid behind her faded brown skirt. Owen looked straight at Wade with the hard eyes of someone much older than 11. We just need somewhere safe to sleep. Wade had expected a tired widow when he placed an advertisement in the town of Red Hollow asking for someone to cook and help keep his ranch house in order. He had not expected 3 frightened children, 1 battered trunk, and a woman whose eyes kept moving toward the road as if she feared someone might appear behind them at any moment. He also had not expected Owen's warning. Wade slowly stepped away from the porch railing so the boy would not feel crowded. He was a broad man in his late 30s, with sun-darkened skin, a worn black hat, and the quiet look of someone who had spent more years talking to cattle than people. That sounds fair, Wade said. Owen blinked. Wade nodded toward the large ranch house behind him. I have 5 bedrooms and only use 1. You can have the rooms on the east side. Your mother can work if she wants the job, but nobody here has to call me anything except Wade. Hannah stared at him for several seconds. You understand what he means? She asked quietly. I think I do. Her fingers tightened around Lucy's hand. Wade did not ask what had happened to them, not yet. He simply carried their trunk inside. The Mercer Ranch stood several miles outside Red Hollow, Wyoming, surrounded by dry grasslands, low hills, cattle fences, and distant mountains that turned purple when the sun went down. Wade had owned it alone for almost 9 years. Once the ranch house had been loud. His younger brother, Samuel, had lived there with him until Samuel married and moved west. Ranch hands had eaten supper around the long kitchen table. Neighbors had visited on Sundays. Over the years, the hands moved into a bunkhouse closer to the barn. Samuel started his own family, and Wade's home grew quiet. At first, he enjoyed the silence. Then the silence became something else. He simply never admitted that to anyone. Hannah and her children brought noise back into the house almost immediately, though it was not happy noise at first. It was the careful sound of people trying not to be noticed. Lucy whispered instead of speaking normally. Ben apologized whenever he dropped anything. Owen watched every doorway Wade entered. Hannah seemed even more cautious than her children. Whenever Wade entered the kitchen unexpectedly, she stiffened before forcing herself to relax. When he raised his arm quickly to reach for a tin cup on a high shelf, she stepped backward without thinking. Wade noticed everything. He asked about none of it. On their first evening, he showed Hannah a wooden lock on the inside of the rooms she and the children would use. You can lock this every night, he told her. Her eyes lifted sharply toward his. You won't mind? No. What if I lock it during the day? That's your door. Something changed in her face. Not trust. Not yet. But perhaps surprise. That night, Wade heard the lock slide into place. The next morning, he acted as though he had heard nothing. For the first week, Owen followed Wade everywhere without admitting he was following him. If Wade went to the barn, Owen appeared near the fence. If Wade repaired a wagon wheel, Owen sat 20 feet away on a stump. If Wade checked the horses, Owen somehow found a reason to stand near the water trough. Wade never told the boy to come closer. He never told him to leave either. On the 8th morning, Wade was repairing a broken gate when Owen finally spoke. You always live alone. Mostly. Why? Wade pushed a nail through a loose hinge. Suppose I got used to it. Owen frowned. My mother says people can get used to bad things. Wade stopped hammering. There was more behind those words than an 11-year-old should have carried. She's right, Wade said. Owen seemed disappointed that Wade had not argued. The boy watched him for another minute. Then he asked, Do you hit children? Wade's hand froze around the hammer. The question came so calmly that it was worse than if Owen had shouted it. No, even if they disobey. No, even if they break something. Wade looked at him. No. Owen narrowed his eyes. That's what people say before they get angry. Wade could have defended himself. He could have promised he was different. Instead, he returned to the gate. Then I suppose you'll have to watch me long enough to find out. Owen said nothing after that, but he stayed until the gate was finished. Hannah saw the whole conversation from the kitchen window. That evening, after the children were asleep, she found Wade sitting alone on the porch. I heard what Owen asked you. Wade looked toward her but said nothing. He wasn't always like this, Hannah continued. Before my second marriage, he laughed all the time. Wade waited. It took her several minutes to continue. Her first husband, Daniel Parker, had died after being injured in a logging accident near Jackson Creek. Hannah had been left alone with 3 children and almost no money. For more than a year, she washed clothes, cooked meals for travelers, and took whatever work she could find. Then she met Curtis Bell. Curtis was charming during their courtship. He brought sweets for the children. He repaired Hannah's porch without being asked. He promised Owen he would teach him to fish. Hannah believed she had found someone who could give her children stability again. 3 months after their wedding, Curtis changed. He started deciding who Hannah could speak to. Then he controlled the money. Then came the anger. Owen became his favorite target because the boy refused to stop protecting his younger brother and sister. He never hurt them badly enough for strangers to notice, Hannah whispered. He was careful about that. Wade's jaw tightened. Hannah stared out toward the dark pasture. I should have left sooner. Wade did not tell her what she should have done. He simply asked, how did you get away? One night he went drinking in Miller's Crossing. I packed one trunk, took the children, and left. Does he know where you are? Hannah looked at him. I don't think so. The answer did not sound certain. Wade understood then why she watched the road. He also understood Owen's warning. The boy had not been insulting him on the first day. He had been laying down terms. Do not become important. Do not become dangerous. Do not become another man we have to escape. Wade respected the warning. Over the next several weeks, he kept his distance while remaining steady. He knocked before entering the east side of the house. He never touched the children unless they reached for him first. When Ben accidentally shattered one of Wade's best lanterns, the little boy went white with terror. Wade looked at the broken glass. Then at Ben. You cut. Ben shook his head. Good. Wade fetched a broom. That lantern was old anyway. Ben stared at him as if Wade had performed some kind of magic. Lucy trusted him next. She loved horses, especially a gentle chestnut mare named Maple. Every afternoon she stood outside the corral and watched Wade work. One day she finally asked, could you teach me? Wade handed her a brush. Start here. Within 2 weeks, Lucy followed him around the barn talking so much that Hannah sometimes had to call her twice for supper. Ben followed soon after. Only Owen remained cautious. But even Owen began changing in small ways. He stopped standing between Wade and Hannah whenever they spoke. He started asking questions about cattle. Then fences. Then horses. One evening he silently handed Wade a wrench while Wade repaired the kitchen stove. Wade took it without commenting. That tiny act meant more than any thank you could have. Hannah noticed too, and that frightened her in a different way, because she was beginning to trust Wade herself. She liked the way he listened before speaking. She liked that he never demanded explanations. She liked watching him teach her children without trying to claim their affection. Most dangerous of all, she began feeling safe. And Hannah had learned that feeling safe around a man could sometimes be the beginning of the greatest mistake of all. So she kept part of herself guarded. Then late one October afternoon, everything changed. A rider from Red Hollow came racing toward the ranch hard enough to leave a cloud of dust behind him. Wade met him near the barn. The rider was Eli Dawson, owner of the town feed store. He looked worried. "There's a man in town asking questions," Eli said. Wade's expression sharpened. "What kind of questions?" "About a widow traveling with 3 children." Wade slowly looked toward the ranch house. Hannah was standing on the porch. Even from that distance, he saw the color leave her face. Eli lowered his voice. "Man says his name is Curtis Bell." Behind Hannah, the front door opened. Owen stepped outside. He had heard the name. And in one terrible second, Wade watched the boy who had slowly begun acting like a child become a frightened little guard again. Owen grabbed his mother's arm and whispered only 4 words. "He found us, Mama." For several seconds, nobody moved. Hannah stood frozen on the porch with Owen gripping her arm, while Lucy and Ben appeared behind him in the doorway. Wade saw the fear pass through all 4 of them like a cold wind. Eli Dawson removed his hat. "He was asking at the hotel first," Eli continued. "Then the livery stable, said Hannah was his wife and the children belonged with him." "They don't," Hannah said sharply. Her voice shook, but the words did not. "I know," Eli replied. "That's why I came straight here." Wade looked toward the road stretching east toward Red Hollow. "Did anyone tell him about this ranch?" "Not that I heard." That was not enough. Curtis did not need someone to tell him directly. He only needed to ask enough people. Hannah stepped down from the porch. "We have to leave." Wade turned toward her. "Where?" "My sister lives near Pine Creek." "That's almost 2 days west." "That's why we should go." Owen nodded immediately. Lucy began crying. "I don't want to leave Maple." Hannah closed her eyes briefly. "Lucy, I don't want to leave Wade either." The words made everyone quiet. Lucy seemed embarrassed by her own confession. She lowered her face and wiped her eyes with her sleeve. Ben moved closer to Wade and wrapped both hands around one of his fingers. Wade looked down at the little boy. Only Owen stayed apart. But Wade noticed something different in Owen's expression now. The boy was not watching Wade with suspicion. He was watching him as though waiting to see what Wade would do. Wade crouched so he could speak to all 3 children without towering over them. "You're going wherever your mother believes you'll be safest." Lucy sniffed. "Will you come?" Wade looked at Hannah. "If she allows it." Hannah stared at him. "You have a ranch to run. I have men who can keep cattle alive for a few days. You don't owe us this." "No." Wade stood again. "But I'm still coming." Hannah wanted to argue. Wade could see it. Then Owen spoke. "Let him." Everyone looked at the boy. Owen swallowed. "If Curtis finds us on the road, Mama can't fight him alone." Hannah's face tightened. "I can protect you." "I know." Owen glanced at Wade. "But maybe you shouldn't have to do it alone." It was the closest thing to trust Owen had offered him. Wade did not smile. He understood the moment was too serious for that. Instead, he nodded once. They left before sunrise the next morning. Hannah packed only what they could carry easily. Wade loaded the trunk into a covered wagon, added food, blankets, ammunition, and enough water for the first day. Eli returned to Red Hollow with instructions to tell Sheriff Amos Reed what had happened. Wade also sent one of his ranch hands south with a message for Hannah's sister, Rebecca Parker, so she would know they were coming. The journey west began under a gray sky. Hannah drove the wagon while Wade rode beside it. Lucy and Ben remained under the canvas most of the morning. Owen sat beside his mother with his eyes fixed on the road behind them. Every few minutes he looked back. By noon, Wade could no longer ignore it. "You'll wear your neck out doing that?" Owen did not smile. "What if he follows? Then I'll see him too." "What if you do?" "I will." Owen studied him. "You sure?" "No." The honesty surprised him. Wade continued. "But being afraid of something doesn't mean pretending it can't happen. It means preparing for it." Owen looked back toward the empty road. "Were you ever scared when you were my age?" "Yes." "Of what?" Wade hesitated. "My father." Owen turned sharply. Wade had never intended to tell the boy that. But the words were already out. "My father drank," Wade said. "He wasn't cruel every day. That made the bad days harder to predict." Owen understood immediately. "Did he hit you?" "Yes." "What did you do?" "Mostly tried to keep him away from my younger brother." Owen's expression changed. For the first time, he looked at Wade not as a grown man being tested, but as someone who had once stood where Owen stood. "What happened to him?" "He died when I was 16. "And your brother?" "I raised him." Owen remained quiet for a long time. Then he said, "I thought men like you wouldn't understand." "Men like me?" "Big." Wade almost laughed. Instead, he said, "Being big doesn't erase being small once." Owen looked down at his hands. That evening, they camped beside a narrow creek beneath a stand of cottonwoods. Wade built a small fire while Hannah cooked beans and salt pork. The children stayed unusually close. Lucy sat beside Wade while he checked the horses. Ben fell asleep against Hannah's shoulder before supper was finished. Owen remained awake longer than everyone else. When Hannah finally carried Ben into the wagon and Lucy followed, Owen stayed by the fire. "You really think Curtis might come?" "Yes." "Would you kill him?" Wade looked across the flames. "Not unless there was no other way to stop him from hurting somebody." Owen picked at the dirt with a stick. "I used to wish he would die." Wade said nothing. "I prayed for it once." "That doesn't make you bad." Owen's eyes filled with shame. "I hated him." "You were scared of him." "I still hate him." "Maybe you always will." Owen looked surprised. Wade leaned forward. "You don't owe forgiveness to someone who hasn't even stopped causing harm. Right now your job is simpler." "What?" "Be 11. Owen stared at him. "I can't." "Maybe not today." Wade threw another piece of wood into the fire. "But someday." Owen did not answer. Still, when he finally climbed into the wagon, he left his rifle beside Wade rather than taking it with him. The next afternoon, they reached Pine Creek. Rebecca Parker's farm sat in a narrow valley protected on 3 sides by rocky hills. She was a widow in her early 40s who managed a modest spread with 2 hired hands and enough stubbornness for 10 more. The moment Hannah climbed from the wagon, Rebecca hugged her. "You should have come sooner." Hannah began crying. Not loudly. Not dramatically. She simply folded against her sister and released something she had been holding inside for months. Rebecca brought the children inside. Wade stayed long enough to inspect the property, speak with both hired men, and make certain Rebecca understood exactly whom they were hiding from. That night after the children slept, Hannah found Wade outside saddling his horse. "You're leaving?" "I need to get back." Hannah nodded. She had known he would. Still, disappointment appeared in her eyes. Wade tightened the saddle strap. "I'll send word if Curtis comes anywhere near the ranch." "Thank you." "You don't have to thank me." "I do." Hannah stepped closer. "You have done more for my children in 2 months than Curtis did in an entire marriage." Wade looked toward the farmhouse. They're good children. They trust you. Two of them do. Hannah smiled faintly. Owen trusts you too. He has an unusual way of showing it. He gave you his rifle last night. Wade looked back at her. You noticed? I notice everything my children do when they're afraid. Her smile faded. Then she said quietly, I trust you too, Wade. Those words landed harder than Wade expected. He wanted to tell her what had been growing inside him for weeks. He wanted to tell her the house had begun feeling like a home because she was inside it. He wanted to tell her that Lucy's laughter, Ben's endless questions, and even Owen's suspicious stare had become parts of his life. He could no longer imagine losing. But this was not the time. Hannah had spent too long being trapped by a man who used love as ownership. Wade would not make her trust feel like another debt. So he only said, I'll keep earning it. Hannah lowered her eyes. Come back safely. I will. From the farmhouse porch came a voice. Wade. Owen stood there barefoot in the cold. Wade walked toward him. The boy held something in his hand. It was a small brass compass Wade had given him weeks earlier while teaching him how to navigate open country. Owen pushed it toward him. You forgot this. No, I didn't. Owen frowned. It's yours now. The boy closed his fingers around it. Then he asked, almost too quietly to hear, You're coming back for us, right? Wade felt something tighten in his chest. As soon as it's safe. You promise? Wade had learned enough about Owen to know promises mattered. So he did not answer quickly. I promise I won't disappear on you. Owen looked at him for several seconds. Then he nodded. Wade rode away before sunrise. 3 days passed. Then 6. Then 9. Letters arrived from Wade through riders traveling between Red Hollow and Pine Creek. Curtis had been seen twice, once near Red Hollow, once 20 miles north. He was still searching. By the second week, Hannah began wondering whether running had actually solved anything. Every night Owen checked Rebecca's windows. Every strange hoofbeat made Lucy freeze. Ben started asking when they could go home. Home? Not Hannah's old house. Not Rebecca's farm. Wade's ranch. That realization frightened Hannah almost as much as Curtis did. Because somehow, without anyone deciding it, the children had begun thinking of Wade's lonely ranch as the place where they belonged. Then on the 17th day, a hard autumn rain came down over Pine Creek. Rebecca was preparing supper when one of her hired hands burst through the back door. There's a rider coming up the south trail. Hannah stood. Who? The man looked at her. Don't know. Owen was already moving. He grabbed Lucy and Ben and pushed them toward the bedroom. Hannah crossed to the window. Through the rain, she saw a man on a dark horse approaching slowly. Even at that distance, she recognized the way he sat in the saddle. Her blood turned cold. No. Rebecca came beside her. Hannah. Hannah could barely breathe. He found us. The rider stopped at the front gate. Curtis Bell lifted his face toward the farmhouse. Then he smiled. And Wade Mercer was nearly 2 days away. Curtis Bell dismounted slowly and tied his horse to the front fence, as if he had every right to be there. Inside the farmhouse, Hannah could hear Lucy crying in the bedroom while Ben asked what was happening. Owen stood beside the door with his small rifle in both hands. Hannah turned sharply. Put that down. Owen shook his head. No. You are not fighting him. I'm not letting him take us. Hannah crossed the room and placed both hands over the rifle. You listen to me. You are 11 years old. This is not your fight. Owen's jaw tightened. It became my fight when he started hurting us. Those words struck Hannah harder than anything Curtis could have said. Rebecca stepped between them. "I'll handle the door." "No," Hannah said. "He came for me." A hard knock shook the front entrance. "Hannah." Curtis's voice carried through the wood. "I know you're inside." Nobody answered. Another knock came. Then another. Hannah opened this door. She closed her eyes. That voice had once sounded charming to her. Now it sounded like a prison. Curtis continued. "You embarrassed me enough. Bring the children out and come home." Owen whispered, "This is home." Hannah looked at him. The boy was staring toward the door, but his meaning was clear. He did not mean Rebecca's farm. He meant Wade's ranch. Hannah felt tears burn behind her eyes. Curtis struck the door again. "You hear me?" Rebecca's hired men moved to the windows with rifles ready. Rebecca shouted through the door. "She does not want you here." Curtis laughed. "This is family business. You stopped being family when she left you." His voice changed immediately. The false calm disappeared. "Hannah belongs with me." Hannah's fear suddenly turned into anger. She stepped toward the door. "I belong nowhere you decide." Silence followed. Then Curtis spoke more softly. "Open the door." "No. I only want to talk." "You had months to talk without frightening my children." "I made mistakes." "You hurt them." "I disciplined them." "You terrified them." Curtis slammed his hand against the door. "They needed discipline because you made them weak." Owen flinched. Hannah saw it. That tiny movement erased the last piece of doubt inside her. She raised her voice. "Leave." Curtis began shouting. He accused her of stealing from him. He accused her of poisoning the children against him. He accused Wade of turning her head. Then his words became uglier. Rebecca sent one of her hired men out the back way toward the nearest telegraph station. The nearest deputy was hours away. Wade was much farther. Hannah knew they might have to hold the farmhouse until morning. Curtis stayed outside as darkness fell. Sometimes he shouted. Sometimes he pleaded. The pleading frightened Hannah more, because she remembered how often kindness had come before cruelty. Owen remained beside her. As the hours passed, his hands shook. Hannah took the rifle from him. This time he let her. "I'm scared, Mama." "I know." "What if he gets in?" "He won't." "You don't know that." Hannah looked into her son's frightened face. "No, I don't." Owen swallowed. "Would Wade come if he knew?" "Yes." He nodded. That answer seemed to steady him. Shortly after midnight, Curtis tried the back door. One of Rebecca's hired men fired a warning shot into the ground. Curtis retreated toward the barn. The house remained awake until dawn. By morning the rain had stopped, but Curtis was still there. He had built a small fire near the gate like a man, waiting for his property to be returned. Rebecca looked through the window. "He's not leaving." Hannah stared at the gray road beyond him. Then she heard hoofbeats. At first she thought fear was playing tricks on her. The sound grew louder. Several riders appeared over the hill. Curtis stood. Hannah moved closer to the window. The first horse was black. The man riding it wore a worn dark hat. "Owen." The boy ran beside her. His face changed instantly. "Wade." Wade Mercer rode into the yard with Sheriff Amos Reed and 2 deputies behind him. Hannah covered her mouth with one hand. She had never been so relieved to see anyone in her life. Curtis stepped into the road. Wade dismounted. He did not rush toward Curtis. He did not reach for his gun. He simply walked toward him with a calm expression that somehow looked more dangerous than anger. Curtis pointed toward the house. "That woman is my wife." Sheriff Reed answered first. "Not anymore." Curtis turned. The sheriff removed a folded paper from his coat. "Hannah Parker's separation and protection order were filed legally. You have no claim over her or the children." Curtis's face tightened. "She ran away. She left a dangerous home." "That's a lie." Wade finally spoke. "You should leave." Curtis looked him over. "So you're Mercer?" "Yes." "The cowboy playing father." Wade's expression did not change. "No one asked me to play anything." Curtis laughed bitterly. "You think those children are yours now?" From inside the farmhouse came a voice. "No." Everyone turned. Owen had opened the door. Hannah reached for him, but the boy stepped onto the porch. His face was pale. His knees were shaking. Still, he looked directly at Curtis. "We're not anybody's property." Curtis stared at him. "You get back inside." Owen's fear flashed across his face. Then Wade stepped between Curtis and the porch. "Don't speak to him like that." Something in Wade's voice ended the matter. Curtis reached toward his coat. The deputies immediately raised their rifles. Sheriff Reed shouted, "Hands where I can see them." Curtis froze. For several tense seconds, nobody moved. Then Curtis slowly lifted both hands. The sheriff approached and removed a revolver from Curtis's coat. "You're done here." Curtis looked past Wade toward Hannah. "You'll regret choosing him." Hannah walked onto the porch. "No." Her voice was quiet now. "I regret choosing you." Curtis looked as if she had struck him. Sheriff Reed placed him under arrest for violating the protection order and threatening the household. As Curtis was taken toward the road, Owen watched silently. He did not cheer. He did not smile. He simply breathed. Wade turned toward the porch. Lucy ran first. She flew down the steps and wrapped both arms around his waist. Ben followed. Wade crouched and held them both. Then he looked at Owen. The boy remained several feet away. For a moment, Wade thought Owen might stay there. Instead, Owen walked forward slowly. "You came." Wade nodded. "I told you I wouldn't disappear." Owen's eyes filled with tears. "You were almost 2 days away." "I rode faster." That made Owen laugh through his tears. Then the boy did something he had never done before. He hugged Wade. Wade closed his eyes and placed one hand carefully on the boy's back. Hannah watched from the porch. In that moment, she understood something she had been too frightened to admit. She loved Wade Mercer. Not because he had rescued them. Not because he was strong. She loved him because he had never once demanded their trust. He had simply earned it. They returned to the Mercer ranch the following week. The first evening home, Lucy ran straight to Maple. Ben raced through the kitchen as if he had never left. Owen checked the doors once. Then he stopped himself. Wade noticed. "You don't have to check them tonight." Owen looked toward him. "I know." Months passed. Curtis was eventually ordered to stay far away from Hannah and the children. With witnesses against him and the sheriff watching closely, he finally left Wyoming. Life at the ranch settled again. But this time nobody called Wade's house quiet. One spring evening, Wade found Hannah standing beside the corral watching the children. Lucy was teaching Ben how to brush Maple. Owen was repairing a fence post. "He's getting good at that," Hannah said. "Better than some ranch hands I've hired." She smiled. Then her expression became serious. "Wade." He turned. "I don't want you to think gratitude is the reason I'm saying this." He waited. "I love you." For once, Wade Mercer had no answer ready. Hannah laughed softly. "That might be the first time I've seen you speechless." He stepped closer. "I love you too." Hannah looked toward the children. "I cannot make another choice that they fear." "You won't have to." Later that evening, Hannah spoke with all three children. Lucy shouted yes, before Hannah had even finished asking how she would feel if Wade became part of their family. Ben asked whether that meant Wade would stay forever. Owen said nothing at first. Wade waited. Finally, the boy looked at him. "When we first came here, I told you we didn't need a father." "I remember." Owen nodded. "I still think I was right." Wade raised an eyebrow. Owen continued. "We didn't need just any father." His voice softened. "We needed somewhere safe." He looked around the kitchen. "Then you made this safe." Wade swallowed hard. Owen stepped closer. "So if you want the job, I guess I wouldn't mind." Wade smiled. "That sounds like a difficult offer to refuse." They married that summer beneath a wide cottonwood tree near the ranch house. Rebecca came from Pine Creek. Sheriff Reed attended. Eli Dawson brought enough food for twice the number of guests. Lucy scattered wildflowers. Ben forgot where he was supposed to stand. Owen stood beside Wade. Before the ceremony began, he quietly handed Wade the brass compass. "You gave this to me when I didn't know where home was." Wade looked down at it. Owen smiled. "I know now." Years later, Owen would remember many things about that ranch. He would remember the fences he repaired. He would remember teaching Ben to ride. He would remember Lucy laughing every time Maple tried to steal apples from her pockets. But most of all, he would remember the lonely cowboy who never demanded to be called father. The man who simply opened a door for 4 frightened people and gave them time. Because Owen eventually learned that safety was not only a locked door or a loaded rifle. Sometimes safety was a quiet man who kept every promise through ordinary days. And sometimes a family did not begin when someone said, "We need a father." Sometimes it began with 4 frightened words. "We need somewhere safe."